What I find really fascinating is how badly that morning show is doing. I mean, if it was ever doing well, I guess maybe at one point in time they thought they had the cachet back when the Democrats were in charge. And then they kind of had a brand like, let's bash on Trump for 4 years. Biden comes in, and then they think they're the cat's meow because now they've got all the deal makers, wheelers and dealers on set there at Morning Joe, and it's the cool kids table at the lunch cafeteria. Well, until they're not, right? Until they're not. And now people are looking at them and say, boy, you guys really got it wrong. Joe Scarborough telling us this is the best Biden ever. I don't think so. And yet they come up with this advertisement, which we're not going to show you because I don't need to pain you with that, but I just took some screen grabs from it. They say they're averaging twice as much as CNN. Guys, I don't know what kind of numbers you're looking at, but I read what I read in Adweek this week, and I don't think you're anything near that. The most recent numbers that I found for the network actually showed that the Morning Joe show was doing about 651,000. That's not 2.6 million. No. That's 651. I realize nobody at MSNBC knows how to do math, but come on, that's a rather inflated number, don't you think? 651, you come up with 2.6. I don't know how they get that one. So their ratings are lousy, okay? They were getting 1.1 million before the election. Again, not 2.6. They're giving new meaning to the word fake news. That has a whole new term. They can't even get their ratings correct. They're trying to bilk people out of more money, claiming they get 2.6 million. Again, I'm just going by the trade publications. That's not what I'm seeing. 1.1 million before the election. And then if you look at the election through maybe about 3-4 weeks ago, they were then down to 651,000. That's a huge drop, you guys. And it's nothing close to the 2.6 million that they're out there bragging about. So yeah, they can't even actually be honest or truthful about their own numbers. I think you got a little bit of a problem going on. And I don't think the market, meaning the stock market, is going to believe whatever they say. So 2.6 million. Yeah, the stock market's like not going to care. You know what else the stock market's not going to care about? How much quote unquote influence you have with people who have no influence. Therefore, nobody is going to buy this company. CNBC has a better fighting chance, shall we say, because it's a little bit better of a product, a lot better of a product, in fairness, and I used to work there. Anyway, look at Adweek. Again, way off here. The only folks that are doing well are us streamers, thank you very much, and Fox News. Well, I guess because people maybe think Fox News actually knows what's going on. Fox News has a little bit of insight into what's happening in this administration. Well, these guys are lying about their own ratings, for goodness sakes. That's not okay, right? Best Biden ever. You guys just lie about everything. I'll tell you, Comcast is done with it. They don't want anything to do with this company. They can't wait for Spinco. They want it to go away. They want the headache of everything that these people are saying about the administration to go away. They want the headache of the DEI investigation to go away. And they want these people to survive or fail on their own. My expectation is that they will fail. I realize that it's being spun to them internally like, oh, it'll be great. It'll be great because you'll finally get to be your own little niche. We'll be able to concentrate on this content exclusively. Well, nobody wants your content. And your content is not spontaneous enough. It's not streaming. It can't actually be part of this new economy. So I don't know where you're going with this. I really don't. And you know what? I don't really care. I just think it's sort of funny. I mean, when you're lying about your own ratings and all that jazz, right? But overall, this is something that's not necessarily special to, shall we say, MSNBC. It's something that's happening within the industry entirely, right? I mean, you've got The View now facing cancellation threats, even though their ratings, shockingly, like I don't know who is watching this show. Who? But they're actually up 4% from this time last year. So they're in better shape than, say, Morning Joe or MSNBC or Rachel Maddow. But again, it is such a dicey environment for the ABC Newses of the world because of the FCC investigation. Brendan Carter, who now runs the FCC for Trump, he's like, I don't see why we should be renewing your affiliation deals. I mean, why should we do that? Given that ABC News is not trusted by most Americans, and most Americans do actually trust their local news. So why should the local news have to pay all this money to be able to carry the ABC News content. Maybe these deals should be restructured so the local news can do their own news and they can carry their own content and they don't have to carry your garbage like this woman, Sunny Houston, trying to equate J6 with World War II, with slavery. I mean, I kid you not. These people are like just off their rockers.
I think we need to find moral clarity, you know, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, you know, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, you know, like World War II, things that happened, you know, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget, because past becomes prologue if you forget and erase.
All right. So this is what poor Bob Iger, not that I have much sympathy for him because he put her in the spot, has to deal with now. You've got somebody who's not willing to move on, who's not willing to accept that this is the president of the United States right now because she still looks back on J6 and equates it with slavery. I mean, wow, right? And you have Whoopi Goldberg, who's been doing her best to hold her tongue because they've told her to, who went into this election period saying nonsense like this.
I'm going to be, on day one, I'm going to be a dictator. Who says it to you, tells you, I'm going to put you people away. I'm going to take all the journalists, I'm going to take all the gay folks, I'm going to move you all around and disappear you. If that's the country you want, you know who to vote for. If that's not the country you want, you have to make a decision.
All right. Well, they made a decision, Whoopi. And you may be up a little measly 4%, and I don't know what kind of year-over-year stuff you're trying to do to get that, but let me just say, they made a decision. The decision was to elect Donald Trump. I mean, he didn't just take the Electoral College. You guys were all upset about that, saying, well, we got to throw out the Electoral College. We don't like the Electoral College anymore because it elected Donald Trump. He took the popular vote too. All right? So there you have it. This is the world in which we now live, and nobody trusts you guys. This is the FCC letter that one Brandon Carr sent to Bob Iger just a couple of weeks ago, basically saying you guys are in trouble. And not only are you in trouble about the accreditation in terms of the ABC affiliations, not are you only in trouble about using public airwaves, but you're also in trouble because you're in violation of the Constitution with all your DEI policies. According to Brandon Carr, there's concern about certain quotas in hiring. Well, that would be, how shall we say, illegal, right? Illegal, not constitutional. Harvard's paying the price for that one right now. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, right? With Harvard, they decided you couldn't discriminate against whites or Asians just because you wanted to have more black students. That doesn't work. The DEI stuff that you all champion, it's out because guess what? It's not legal. So ABC has a whole set of situations in front of it. I mean, ABC is really fighting for its very survival. And don't forget, there aren't a whole lot of folks that like Disney very much. That would be the owner of one ABC News, nor do they like one Bob Iger. But I'll leave that all aside. I mean, remember Elon Musk and Bob Iger, and, you know, when Disney pulled its advertising on X, and he's like, you know, how dare you, and F you, Bob, and you think you can fight me with money, it's not going to work. Well, let's leave that aside and just remember the elephant in the room, which is, again, that this is a dying industry because nobody is watching TV at home at, I don't know, when is that show on? 11 o'clock in the morning anymore. That just doesn't exist. That entire model is disappearing before your very eyes. And that's why about 2 years ago, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, which runs ABC, which produces The View, wanted to diversify out of these businesses. He said, we will be expansive in our thinking. Translation, I'm selling them all.
Transformative work is dealing with businesses that are no-growth businesses and what to do about them, and particularly the linear business, which we are expansive in our thinking about, and we're going to look expansively about opportunities there, because clearly it's a business that is going to continue to struggle.
Well, let's stop there for a second then and let me ask you about it. We're talking, I guess, ABC, the network, the stations, but then the cable networks as well.
Yes, correct.
FX, Nat Geo. Is it possible you would look to sell them?
We're going to be expansive. I think if you can interpret what that word means.
You can interpret what it means. It means we're going to sell them. Except we can't. You see, we can't sell them because nobody wants them. Because the business is a dead business. It's like, remember when the automobile came out and the buggy whip went bye-bye? Or when the refrigerator came out and we no longer needed ice boxes? This is here and now. I'm live right now. I can see all your comments, so careful what you write. Thank you for all the likes. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, comment to let me know what you think. But this is the future, right? This is, and it's going to grow incredibly in the next 6 months, in the next year. I mean, I can see your comments live in real time. We could probably actually start bringing some of you on the show. David, Mike Costa, Leslie, some of the regulars, right? I mean, this is a much more three-dimensional kind of experience, and this is the future, and this is what people are doing. So why are you going to pay $25 million for Rachel Maddow and a giant set and all the producers, etc.? If you're an investor, how are you going to think about this? Content is still key, right? Content is what matters, but the distribution channel has changed massively. So if the distribution channel has changed, nobody has to go into the studio anymore to be surrounded by, the equipment, the cumbersome group of producers, the network, etc. If you can actually strip that away and the content itself is all that matters, i.e. hopefully the personality, right? That is what, at the end of the day, is what makes the difference, I think. I mean, look, I'm living proof of it right here. I mean, what are we at? 700 and... Check this out, guys, okay? I am living proof that, you know what? The big network doesn't matter. What matters is the content. What matters is the creator. What matters is authenticity. We've got 700 and... Wow, this was just before I went to air, so we may be higher right now. Hopefully we're higher because you're liking, subscribing. 700, nearly 500,000. I mean, that is incredible. And so many of you have seen it all along the way. And thank you to those of you who were shouting out, Unc Anthony, I see you in here saying, hey, this is fantastic. When we hit 700,000 the other day, it was just a few weeks ago, we were at 600,000. I think Christmas Day was 500,000. I've been doing this show every single day live for about 2 years now. And you see that is ultimately what is penetrating and getting across. And so, sure, Rachel Maddow can go there and do her show, and Morning Joe can do his show and, lie about his ratings and this and that and the other. We're doing 88 million views a month with 705,000 subscribers. We'll see what we do on this show when it's all said and done, but we're seeing hundreds of thousands of you tune in every single day for the show, and it's amazing. It's amazing, right? So this is the future. I'm excited to be part of it. I'm excited that you're here. We are fully independent. That is the benefit of Trish Regan not having to listen to anyone or talk to anyone or deal with any of the middle management that I never could stand dealing with, frankly. We can talk about that later.